Oh my god, I just opened this and look what I found. No! That's so sweet. Like, look at it. It's so cute. Oh, I love that I just put random stuff in my books and then I open them and I'm like, I'm gonna find a little place for you because today we are talking about my favorite topic in the entire world, which is, of course, you know it, books. I have compiled my favorite few books of 2022, and those books are books where I think you should read them in 2023 if you haven't already, because some of them are very popular, as you might have caught already, like a little glimpse from this amazing book pile. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about a few things concerning the BookTube, BookTok, Bookstagram community that I think if you're watching this video, you're probably at least in a tiny way a part of. And first of all, that's reading goals in numbers, and second of all, popular books and trend cycles. So the first thing I want to say is that last year I felt incredibly pressured for the first time in my life to read more and more and more, to a point where it almost felt negative, where it was the same as wanting to own more clothes or being prettier or whatever. It was this classic game of comparison that's like very usual for social media. And it really bothered me because I was like, man, this is my hobby. This is what makes me like the happiest. I love this so much, and why am I ruining it for myself? I kind of just like try to distance myself, take, you know, do some breathings and just kind of chill about it. But it's a two-sided sword, or like coin, or edged sword, or whatever you want to call it, because it was my most successful year of reading, and it was because it was so present in my life on social media. There was the pressure I put on myself, all of that jazz, which I think is a good thing. Like, I'm happy I read so much, but at the same time, what I just said. So yeah, I read 53 books last year, so basically one each week. I feel like it's also a number that for somebody who does content about this is like not a lot, you know. There's all the people doing like 200, 365 books like a year, where I'm like, girl, do you live like in a convent, or are you like a British heiress who lives like in a castle and does nothing but read all day? But whatever. That's a completely different topic. Just so I don't go off the rails too much, what I'm trying to say is that I think that these goals and social media and Goodreads and all of that shenanigans, it's like amazing, but you have to also like watch out, because you don't want to ruin this by social media like everything else in your life has been ruined already. At least I'm speaking for me, but yeah. The second thing I wanted to talk about is trendy books and trend cycles, which are also things that I've noticed very heavily in the book communities on social media last year. And that is that, I mean, TikTok of course has revolutionized the publishing industry. That's not even a question. But at the same time, it has created this space where some titles and some authors become uber popular, like on a Harry Potter level. But it's not just one book, it's like many different books. A good example would obviously be Miss Colleen Hoover. But many other authors who kind of fail to get into this wheel of social media attention for books just get completely left out and don't get no recognition and attention at all. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I've noticed that the trend cycle that applies to fashion, for example, is slowly like finding its way into the book communities, which I find extremely sad. By the trend cycle in fashion, I mean that, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was considered the 20-year rule that things would come back in fashion. 20 years, it was a rather slow trend cycle. And the last 5 years, the trend cycle in fashion has been exploding. Like, the wheel is running and turning and like going insane, you know? Like, things are trendy for like a day and that's it, and then it's like not cool anymore. So it's not the same in books yet, but it's coming. And what I mean is, there's a lot of books on social media that are cool and like hot for like a few months max, and then they're kind of like, ugh, icky, because that aesthetic that has kind of claimed that piece of literature is out of style. And I hate to say this, but that's terrible. This is literature, okay? Like, yes, it's a consumable good, and if you are merely looking at it through this consumerist lens where you use items to adorn your made-up personality, that's what it is. But literature, at the end of the day, is still literature. And I hope that it has more longevity than an internet aesthetic trend. So, I've read a lot of different kinds of books this year, from poetry, non-fiction, literary fiction, popular fiction, like more like trendy books, or more like super old German books, like classical literature. Like, it's all been in there. But for some reason, a lot of these trendy books made it into my favorites pile. And what I want to, why I'm kind of like talking about this, is because I'm not saying that you should read these books this year, or that they were my favorites because they were trendy, but because I actually believe that they are incredibly good books. So if some of this seems like it's like not the hottest book anymore, then yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, because it bothers me. Like, I don't want books to become like the next fast fashion, you know? And I know it's not gonna happen, because like books are a niche, and like it takes time to read and stuff. But social media has a way of commodifying everything. So yes, let's get started. By the way, this is me from the future. I forgot to say this, but if you have read any of these books that I will recommend, please comment like your opinion. Like, I want to know, like, does our taste overlap? Does it not? If it doesn't at all, recommend me the book that I should read this year. I have 5 categories for you, and it's poetry, modern classics, classics, and contemporary fiction, and 1 German book. So it's contemporary German-ish. I have noticed I love contemporary literary fiction. It is delicious, and I suck it up like, oh, it's so good. These are all stories about women, some deeply flawed women, some a little bit less flawed women, and they're all so fascinating. I just, like, you have to read it. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, a cult classic, you've heard about this. It's about this conceited girl who sleeps for a year, and it's just so poignant. I'm actually, right now, I'm reading Altessa Moschweg's Lapwona, and I think what really makes Moschweg's writing so unique is that she always captures the worst of human beings. And Lapwona is like this disgusting story. It's so traumatizing. It's really disgusting. It's set in the Middle Ages. So it's like obviously disgusting. But this one is about beauty and privilege, because it's a young, rich, thin, hot white woman. But it's still about how rotten she is. So we love her. Cleopatra and Frankenstein has to be like the hottest it book of the year, I feel like. I'm not sure. I felt like it really was. But rightfully so, because it's absolutely amazing. It's Coco Meller's debut novel, and it's about this couple. One of them is like 23 years old. That's Cleo. She's from England. She moves to New York City. She wants to get like a green card marriage with this dude who is like 40, and he's like in advertising. And yeah, it turns out to be an insanely toxic relationship. There's a lot of amazing characters in this. I feel like this is a very Gen Z to millennial novel. It's deep, it's well written, it's also like quirky, so it's just relatable. Like, I don't know, everybody has been in a toxic relationship, and it feels like nice to have like your ugly feelings validated through this book. Yeah. I'm forgetting something. From things I've read about this book, some people would maybe put it like rather closely to My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Not like in that extreme, but a lot of the characters in this book are quite unlikable because they're very conceited and privileged or just annoying. Not all of them, some are very like nicey-dicey. But yeah, she's hot. If you want to read more about Black women's stories, I encourage you to read 2 books of, I think, my 2 favorite Black authors, female writers at the moment, Raven Leilani and Brit Bennett. So this one, oh my god, The Vanishing Half. I've talked about these like at some points before, but I just want to kind of make it quick. It's about 2 twins who are from an all-black town in southern America, not South America, but like in the southern US. And they both run away at 17, but they split up and they lead completely different lives. One of them has a child with a very dark-skinned black man, and that child is very black, and the other one passes as white because they're both like very light-skinned. So she pretends to be white by, you know, straightening her hair, dyeing it, like all these things. Moves into a white neighborhood, has a white child with like blue eyes and like blonde and all of that, and becomes very racist and denies where she comes from. And these 2 daughters, so the white daughter and the black daughter, they intercept, and it's like the best Netflix show you've ever watched. Like the plot twists are so good, the language is deep and cutting, LGBT representation is slaying. Yeah, it's just fucking page turner. Like, I was so hooked. Literally addiction. This book was addiction, and they're turning it into a movie or a series. I don't know, I'm ready. So yeah, this is such a sad book, but it's so amazingly written. The first one that I just showed you was obviously also about colorism and racism and sexism in America, but this one, like, it was very plot driven, while this one is very language driven. It's rather slow, but it really like sucks you up, and you're just like, oh my god, like you feel her pain. It's a very beautiful and honest portrayal of a young Black woman's experience living in New York City, dealing with a white family. She starts this love affair with a married white man and moves in with them, and just all of the disparities and levels of privilege are beautifully written about. It's very hurtful, and it's just a very good fucking book, so blessed her. Oh, also I forgot that she's an artist and she deals with depression, so this is also something, yeah, it's a book about depression. I don't know how to say something like smart about it, except for I love reading books about people who are depressed. I lied to you, and I said that I had one category of poetry because this is a book by Ocean Vuong, who is mainly a poet, but what I wasn't thinking is that this is actually his only work of prose, which I selected because I think it's much better than his poetry. It's kind of odd that I've read a good amount of poetry books this year, but none of it made it onto my list. They were all from okay to like amazing, but not like life-changing, like this book was, for example. This is a semi-autobiographical novel by Ocean Vuong, and it's so hard to talk about what this book is really about. It doesn't have like a big or strong plot since it's just, you know, the retelling of his life. It's narrated through letters to his mother, which are incredibly intimate. She's supposedly illiterate, so she can't read, and there's a big or multiple big metaphors about language, and language being taken away from his mother and his grandmother because they had to flee the Vietnam War in order to immigrate to America. And it's kind of like this beautiful irony of him regaining so much power over language where the women before him had none of it. So I think that's just incredibly beautiful. But more on the content side, I think it's a book about war, abuse, poverty, drug addiction, and the American identity. And like, I'm literally getting goosebumps by talking about this because it's so broad yet so poetic. It's so sad. It's heartbreaking. I've never in my life had to put a book down because I couldn't bear the pain I was feeling. I love feeling pain through books, but no, this was, wow. Every time I picked it up, I cried. I think there's like tears and tears caught between these pages. He falls in love at like, I think 12, 13 with this boy who's a bit older than him, and he calls him like a redneck, and he has like a really intense drug problem, which comes from him being prescribed opioids when he was like younger for like some random injury. So it's a very, very American story that just casts so much light on the ugly parts of America. And I don't know, this book is just absolutely fucking wild. I can't even talk about it intellectually because it has wrecked me to my core, and there's so many things that I literally think about them every day. I mean, it's been 2 weeks since I've read it, so okay. But still, it's wow. Next up we have modern classics I think you should read this year. One of them is not so known, the other ones are pretty famous. The Virgin Suicides. I feel like I don't even have to talk about this book because I've literally gutted my heart out about it for so many times. Yeah, it's this incredible novel by Jeffrey Eugenides. It was his debut novel, like I think in the 80s or something. And it's about these 5 sisters who all kill themselves one after the other. And it's narrated through this group of boys who watch them and mystify them. And I don't know, I feel like I don't even have to say anything because it's just been so widely debated. In comparison to On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, it's not even that sad. Like, I don't know if I'm like psychotic or there's something wrong with me, I don't know. But because it's so like allegoric and beautiful, and there's so many like metaphors again about America, the death of America, about suburbia, girlhood, what it means to be a woman, that I wasn't like actually, you know, sad, not even about, or like really emotional about the graphic displays of violence. It is pretty graphic, I would say. But it was just like the language, it's fucking corn. It's literally word corn. Like, it's like if only if I could make love to the language in this book, I absolutely would. The story is disturbing, of course, but the language, it's like it takes a certain level of genius to produce a work like this. That's all I'm gonna say. So my next work of a modern classic is Criss Cross Tawpaw. It's not really a modern classic. I've just put it in that category for whatever reason. It's not literary fiction in the same way that the others were, so whatever. Criss Cross is not that known. You might have heard of her from her book I Love Dick, which I'm sure you've seen at the bookstores. I've seen it since I was like 14 and I was scared of buying it because I thought it was like corn, which it absolutely isn't, because she's this like intellectual trailblazing feminist, and it's like a feminist not radical, but like feminist theory and philosophy book, both of them. And so yeah, she's pretty known from like more intellectual artistic context. And I read this first, and then I read I Love Dick, but they do come in the like other order, so it's I Love Dick first and then this. It's not two novels that like base off each other. They're like, I Love Dick is like very like semi-autobiographical. It's very weird. It's super like avant-garde. you know, it's like the shit that like people or like kids in like 70 years will have to learn about in English class, because it's like very intelligent, but it's like not a lot of fun, to be honest, because it's just basically Chris gets obsessed with this man named Dick. That's why the book's called I Love Dick. And then they start this like weird art project, and even that, like, it's way more complicated than this, but it's like not fun. So this, on the other hand, that's the only reason why I read the second one, because this absolutely slapped. It hit me like a brick. While the first being like more avant-garde, this was more like a regular novel, but it's just so insanely well written. It's this story about this couple who lives like, I think in like New England or like upstate New York or something, and the guy's like a professor, but he's like super depressed. Deals a lot with the Holocaust, because I think his family is Jewish and immigrated to America during World War II, or maybe he was personally, I don't quite remember the full thing, but basically he's having a really rough time. And then the girl, the woman, she's much younger, she's like this quirky rando girly who like wants to have a baby, but then like she can't have a baby, so they go to like Romania to find like a baby to adopt. But then they kind of like, it's super like weird, but again, it's incredibly well written, and I feel like it's such a good book about being a woman. Like that's the thing, like, you know, she's like a feminist writer, like how could it not be good? But it's not like one of those books where it's like, oh my god, women need rights, like, oh yeah, we love it, or like girl boss. Like, no, it's really about how much it sucks to be a woman. But I feel so understood by this book, because this bitch, like the woman, is so unlikable. Like, you literally hate her, like she's a fucking child, but at the same time you're like, ah, meh, that's me behavior, can't put it any differently, that's absolutely me. So yeah, it's kind of like this ugly mirror where you're like, fuck, I suck. This is what this book did to me, but like in a good and like smart, intellectual, literary way. Okay, we actually have 3 left. Next one, The Secret History, Donna Tartt. Yes, I know, your TikTok feed has probably been full with it like for the past 200 years. I don't care, I need an excuse to talk about this book, but I'm gonna make it short. It's these kids, and they're like they go to private school in New England. It's this amazing life. Every bitch whose like favorite subject was like German English, like the language courses, like every bitch wants to be them, okay? It's rock solid. But then they start to murder people, and it's kind of like for the sake of art and beauty and terror. And yeah, this is how much I tapped, so you bet this was a good read. And for it being so chunky, it took me like 2 days. It was insane. I'm not gonna annoy you about it, but please read it. It's so good. Like, if I could like chain you somewhere and make you read these books, I would. Just for the comfort and pleasure of then speaking to you about it. Even though I think you probably wouldn't want to speak with me after I chained you up and forced you to read these books. So I'm not gonna do that for legal reason. That's obviously a joke. And we are now at my last 2 books. I thought I should include a classic, even though I feel like classics never hit my core, or at least they haven't in like 1 or 2 years. When I was like 16 to 18, like classic would really hit my fucking core, because they were so broad and existential, you know, like fucking Faust, like Goethe, like oh my god, like I feel like I bawled my eyes out because I felt so understood by this fucking 70-year-old who's doing like some shit with the devil in like medieval times. I don't know, don't ask me. But recently I feel like I've been going more for books that speak to me personally rather than to human nature and existence in general. So, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I don't know why this book is like so ruined, maybe because I read it at the beach, but this is just fucking amazing. Like Oscar Wilde, like come on. It's super gay, it's like rotten, it's like kind of ugly, but like hot. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. The last one is a German book. Maybe I should just like switch to German. Soll ich? Soll ich? I mean, I don't think it exists in translation. Oh my god, I just opened this and look what I found. No! That's so sweet! Like, look at it! It's so cute! Oh, I love that I just put random stuff in my books and then I open them and I'm like, Das letzte Buch ist Alle Toten fliegen hoch, Amerika. Und es ist einfach das Buch für alle, so Auslandsjahr-Girlies, aber nicht für diejenigen, die noch ein Auslandsjahr machen werden. Falls solche Menschen überhaupt noch meine Videos gucken, ich glaube nicht. Aber für diejenigen, die es mal gemacht haben oder auch nicht gemacht haben, aber wollten. Damn. Es geht in diesem Buch um einen Dude, der in den 80er Jahren ein Auslandsjahr macht in Amerika, in Wisconsin, Wyoming, frag mich nicht, irgendwo. Und es ist halt so nostalgisch für mich gewesen, dieses Buch zu lesen, weil ich ja auch ein Auslandsjahr gemacht habe in Las Vegas vor ein paar Jahren. Aber es ist halt extrem düster. Also dieses Buch ist halt schon nichts, was ich jetzt so jemandem schenken würde, der so in 2 Monaten ins Auslandsjahr fliegt, weil das ist halt actually ein Buch. So, es ist kein fucking Ratgeber für Exchange Year, so. Sondern es geht halt irgendwie so um Drogen und Sex und den ganzen Scheiß, den man nicht machen darf im Auslandsjahr. Aber we all did it. Es geht auch relativ viel um Tod, um Einsamkeit, natürlich irgendwie Deutschland versus Amerika. Also für mich war es einfach so ein persönliches Favoritenbuch, weil es in mir so viel ausgelöst hat. Ich glaube, für andere Leute, die jetzt wirklich gar nichts mit dem Thema Auslandsjahr am Hut haben, kann es auch mega schönes, super spannendes, trauriges, herzliches Buch sein. Aber ich glaube, wie gesagt, die Auslandsjahr-People, so you're gonna suck this up. Und wenn du halt so drin bist, wisst ihr, der ist halt irgendwie 16 und ja, es hat so in den 80ern, was es halt irgendwie noch ein bisschen cooler macht. Weil es hat so diesen so Stranger Things Effekt. Und das fand ich so nice und bei. Aber es ist einfach toll. Und actually besprechen wir das in einem Seminar von mir in so 2 Wochen. That was it. My books. These are the books you should read. I'm wishing you a happy new year. I hope you're doing amazing. Yeah. Let me know what you want to see. Like, what shall I do? First, I gotta clean up this mess here, and now I gotta write my stories. Oh, I have so much shit to do for uni. Like, doing this was kind of an escape, you know? And I'm like, oh, I have to actually do shit. Yeah. Bye-bye. Ugh! Brimful. Peace out.